Hello slot car fans, especially those interested in custom building your own slot cars on the ScaleAuto universal chassis. If you guys may have seen, I have got in my previous videos, well, let me get this where you can see it. There you go. That's the ScaleAuto, oops, that's the ScaleAuto chassis packaging. And it's just their standard 124, 125 universal chassis. Has adjustable wheelbase and adjustable track width. So you can use this for many different plastic model type cars in order to make your own, custom make your own slot cars. And heck, some people are, 3D printing their own bodies and all that kind of stuff too. But if you're not into that, there's a heck of a selection of plastic models that you can find and build, just about any car you want. Now, in this case, as you may have seen in my previous video here, this is actually a Lexan body, and I had a few of these that I got. Actually, I got a whole box full of them, really, for a good price. I just thought, well, heck, I'll paint these up and use them for different stuff. And in this case, it's become kind of my guinea pig for the ScaleAuto chassis. And if you see my previous video on it, I started lining things up, and it was looking pretty good. This is where we're at now. I've got it mounted onto the car, mounted onto the chassis. It's going to be ready for some test runs. And if you remember my previous video, I screwed the pooch on just about everything about the painting and masking and everything. So, that's why it looks like crap. I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to push forward in order to be able to continue the experiment. And basically the way the ScaleAuto chassis works, let me get this over here where you can see it better. It's different from the H&R in that the side rails here are not adjustable for the body width, so you have to put in some kind of shims here. I used some EPP foam and cut it into some little bitty strips, glued it both to the body and to the chassis, and then put some Velcro, some really heavy-duty Velcro in between here. Ideally, I think I should not have used such heavy-duty Velcro, but that's just what I had from my airplane days, and so that's what I used. And it's stronger than the glue that's holding everything else together, unfortunately, so that's always kind of a problem. But anyway, you can kind of see the idea of what I did here. It's just a little strip of foam on this side, a strip of foam on this side, but like I said, it's EPP foam. It's really tough stuff. And then there's a piece of Velcro in between so I can remove the body. There's also a body mount that is in the kit, in the chassis kit, and it's going to be kind of hard for me to show that. But you can probably see the post right now. You can see that post going up in the middle of the windshield there. That goes up to a flat part that is also Velcroing to this upper part here, so that I do have kind of a 3-point mounting. It's mounted on both these sides as well as back here. In the kit for this chassis, they also give you a front post that would go up and that would screw up into these holes. Well, these holes right here that you can't really see very well, but they're the ones that are way up in the front. And there's a post that would go in there, but that was too tall, and I may try to use it and cut it down, but I didn't want to ruin it quite yet. I wanted to try this first before I start doing any destructive testing. So that's where we're at right now. We've just got this 3-point mounting, and I'll say, overall, this car, and as well as the H&R chassis that you've seen in my previous videos and the car I'm working with on that, I don't like the body mounting system all that well. I just don't think it's that secure. But since all these guys are kind of revolving around using Velcro as the final attachment point, that way you can remove it, it's sort of fiddly to get the chassis and the body to line up right, so you don't have wheel rub and don't have the chassis all jacked one way or the other and stuff. And so literally it took me a few minutes just to get this lined up to where it would look half decent. But I think it's ready to run now. I mean, I have it all set up to where it's not rubbing on the wheels, and it's I think it's going to run pretty good. So that gets us updated on the scratch build or custom build slot car thing. Now the next thing I wanted to talk about, well, wait a minute, before I move on, let me show you one other thing. This is a 1/24th scale Corvette body. Oh, 1/25th scale, I'm sorry, 1/25th. And Well, in this picture it doesn't look that much smaller. I'm going to have to move the camera and show that again towards the end, but I don't want to do that quite yet. The other thing I wanted to show was this ScaleAuto chassis without a body on it. For a couple of different reasons. One of my slot car brothers over at Toju Slot Car Racing. If you haven't checked out his channel, do so. He's got a lot of cool stuff over there. And he's starting to experiment with first-person view cameras mounted onto his car. And I wanted to show a couple of things because this chassis is super flat. This is a ScaleAuto chassis that you just saw a minute ago with the body on it. This is one that doesn't have a body on it, obviously. And I just wanted to show that just how flat that chassis is. Also, the way it's designed, the motor sits super low down in here. Unfortunately, it's not an angle winder, you know, or a inline or anything. Well, I'm not sure what they call this. I guess maybe they call this inline. The other way, I'm not sure what they call it. But anyway, if the motor was going this way, it would spread out the weight of the car a little better and make it handle better. When the motor's all the way at the back end like this, theoretically, it's going to make the car want to get more tail happy, right? But this one, in this case, they mounted this so low down in the chassis, this actually has to have a cutout in the chassis. That's the motor right there. So the motor magnets are actually giving you some pull too. And then they have these other two magnets that come in the car. Just, you know, you can take them out or leave them in or whatever, depending on what your preference is. But these cars have a lot of magnet pull the way they come with all the magnets and the motor and everything the way it is. And so, if you're needing a drone car or something that'll stick to the track better, or doing first-person view camera videos where the top-heavy camera is causing the cars to fly off the track, this may be a good alternative, or a good way to make a camera car. And I want to show one other thing while I'm at it. Well, first of all, once again, I'll show how flat this thing is. You could literally just, you know, put a few things in here to build this up a little bit. You can even use the existing parts for body mounts and use them to then build up a little platform here to put your camera on. And even better yet, you might be able to mount the camera up here with a little bit more industrious manufacturing, right? Because you might cut down the tops of these screws and just glue something up on here. You could shorten this chassis or lengthen it however you wanted it in order to make the camera fit. And you know, it gives you a whole lot of options there to play with. But the other thing that I think, and I've showed this in the previous video also, but the Carrera chip, it looks like this car is literally made for the Carrera chip, because if I set it right there, now this is just a standard cheap Carrera chip from AliExpress, where I got them, I think I got them at regular price once, like 4 for 80 bucks, so they're only 20 bucks a piece. And then one time I got them about 10 bucks cheaper than that. But look here, I've got that hole lined up, and I hope you guys can see this. But the switch goes right there. There's a spot for the switch, and there's a spot right there for the light too. Everything kind of lines up when you put it on that hole. So this might be a way to just cheaply chip. You know, you don't have to buy one of those expensive Carson chips and all that stuff that, you know, they usually don't work right anyway. This may work just correctly because you're using a standard Carrera chip, even though you're not using a standard Carrera chassis. And so this combination here, Carrera chip, this chassis, and your camera mounted right up here, may end up being a really good point of view type camera car or camera chassis or whatever. So anyway, so I hope you guys get something out of that. Hope that's helpful. Certainly worth a try. I'm going to end up trying it. If nobody's tried it before I do, I'll let you know what I find out. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you was this body. First off, I want to mention about the color of this thing, because I'm not that good of a painter, but I think this color turned out gorgeous. I don't know if you can see it as well in the camera, but it looks really cool. And the reason I'm showing this is not because I'm any expert on painting, because I normally suck, but this turned out to be a totally happy accident. I started spraying it with some metallic paint, some metallic green, and I guess I didn't have a whole can of it. It was just, you know, something that was left over, and I ran out of it before I finished the job. So I had to switch to some other green that I just had, once again, some other leftover green that was some other old can of paint, and finished spraying it out. And the color, I don't know, to me it just looks gorgeous. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of green, but this green looks really cool. But here's the other thing I wanted to show you, and I'm going to have to mess around with the camera a little bit to get there. So that, as I mentioned, that's a 1/25th scale, 1/25th scale plastic model body. Now let's bring this 1/24th scale competition car back in so we can take a look at the difference in size. We'll get you up here where you can look at it. Now I'll tell you folks, in person this Corvette looks considerably smaller. As far as I can tell in the viewfinder, it doesn't look that much smaller, but in person it certainly does. And so you can tell there's got to be some kind of artistic license taken between the scales on these things, especially with these competition slot car bodies. I don't think that they're necessarily in scale, or very much in scale. I think they're trying to make the car handle right and do what they can with it. But that brings me to the last thing that I wanted to mention, and also has to do with the but anyway, I think that green color looks really, really cool. The other thing I wanted to mention about these ScaleAuto bodies, and the reason, you know, like I was saying, the magnets are really strong on them. I don't have a Carrera car to compare it to at the moment, but I want to just show you something here. This is the track. I'm picking it up by the rear end of the car. Now I'm actually picking the whole track up by the car. These things are pretty strong, and I did a comparison on video, on an earlier video, where I showed how the Carrera car lets go and this car still holds. You'll have to look back at those videos or take my word for it, but I am 100% sure that these cars right here, these ScaleAuto chassis, have way more magnet than Carrera cars do. Which, once again, like I said, if you're trying to maybe set up a ghost car or a camera car or something like that, this may actually be the ticket. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.